I'm going to address a few topics in this. So, first question is why can't I give advice to people on phone or online? I can't simply because I need to understand markets, I need to understand products, and I need to understand you. And you are 70% of my decision. So people confuse thinking that an advisor has to just tell me whether this is a good investment or not a good investment, right? It's not like recommending you Horlicks or Bonvita or Iodex or a car or even a camera. Because you have to know yourself and I have to know you. Even if you were to ask me advice on which cycle to buy, it's not about the product, it's about the usage. How are you going to use it? How much, who else is going to ride in your house? Will that person ride it as responsibly as you do? Do you want a clip-on shoes, and do you know how to get off on a clip-on shoes? Because when you wear a clip-on shoes in a cycle, the first 2-3 rides you're bound to fall because you will forget that you're wearing a clip-on shoes, right? So it's such small things that you have to consider. You have to sit with the person, find out, are you going to go for very long rides? Do you need even a water bottle holder, or are you going to do 20-kilometer rides where you may not need water, right? So all those questions go into deciding what I want to buy, what I want to recommend for you, right? So similarly, when it comes to investing, we also realize that each person is doing a very different thing which suits him or her. So take an example from sport. If you understand, if you've seen what's a triathlon, in a triathlon you first swim, then you run, and then you first you swim, then you cycle, and then you run. So swimming does not increase your heart rate much. But your heart rate will be a little elevated because you've just finished the swim and you come running to your cycle. Then you cycle increases your heart rate a little more, and then you run. So your heart rate goes up like this to like this, because running, especially in the last 5 kilometers, you will be increasing your heart rate dramatically. I could also do it differently, saying, okay, let us do a run, shoot, and then run. Because you run, your heart rate goes up, then you have to calm, you have to shoot, and then run. So different sports require different strategies, different people invest for different things. So when I see people asking, can I invest in crypto? I neither understand crypto nor do I understand you. So that's a terrible combination. I cannot even think of giving you advice. But understand one thing, different sports, even though they may look alike, require different strategies. Let's look at football. In football, your hand is not supposed to touch the ball, whereas in volleyball or handball, you're very rarely will you see somebody kick the ball, but your hand should always be on the ball, right? So different skills, different requirements, different maybe even physical requirements. For some, for cycling you need very strong legs, so you find a lot of cyclists with very strong legs and very weak upper body. You find a lot of body weight weightlifters, and those weightlifters will have a very strong upper body, and they also need a very strong lower body. But if you look at their photographs, their legs may be very weak. They may be more built on the upper body. So if you want to shift from one sport to another, if you want to shift from bodybuilding to cycling, yes, of course the same fitness levels are required, but the skills are different, and even your body shape has to be changed. You cannot have too much of weight. For example, even if you consider horse riding sport, in horse riding it is important that you be short and you be extremely thin and low weight. I mean, for a man it could be just 55 kilos, 52, 55 kilos. For a woman, maybe she should just be 45, 46 kilos to be a good horse rider. Completely different skill than what is needed to be in, say, boxing, right? So different skills, different body sets. So what happens is, when somebody comes and wants to invest, I need to spend a lot of time with that person. So today I have no intentions of doing that. Once upon a time I perhaps would have done that as a broker, but today I don't have the patience. So I don't understand you. There is no way how I can recommend a product to you. It looks very easy. Also, people think, oh, it's all you have to do is pick up one product and give, but when you are thinking very differently, if with my same portfolio which I have, there will be people who can lose money and there will be people who can gain money. People who are capable of sitting for long periods of time might react very differently than from people who get very itchy whenever there is some movement, they want to buy, sell, they want to take some action. You make money over long periods of time and by sitting inactively over long periods of time. So all those things are necessary to make money. But somebody could be a trader, and the worst thing is people believing that trading is easier than investing. I can assure you that investing is far easier than trading. Trading requires you to be extremely alert and for opportunities. For example, when this Axis crisis hit, there are people who took the portfolios of Axis and said, if there is a run on money for run on the funds of Axis, which could be small cap and mid cap, there's rarely a run on the large cap. If there is then they will sell these shares, so let me go and short these shares. So many people have short these shares. I think Thursday, Friday saw a lot of shorting of these shares. So companies with good results also got shorted, thinking that Monday, Tuesday, Axis Mutual Fund will come to sell it. Now 2-3 things can happen. People, Axis may not even sell it because Axis has enough cash. Axis may sell very small quantities. Axis may do private deals. Axis may call up the promoter and do the deal, right? So all these things you have to understand. So I would not go short at all. I never go short. I may have sold some of the shares which I have and saying, okay, in anticipation, let me sell all this and buy it, but I didn't do it. But there would be somebody who's looking for such opportunities and somebody who's saying, I don't care, in the long run, if I can get inflation adjusted returns, that's fine. So I'm convinced that I should not that's where I like Warren Buffett, and he runs a range of companies. He does not go and tell one CEO, look what that CEO is doing is better, he's doing a better job, or because businesses are different and the person sitting there has to handle it. Anybody can sit here and give judgment as to what to do because A is doing this in Facebook, B should copy that in Google, may or may not be true, right? I am not even getting into those kind of examples because I don't understand those businesses. But to be able to understand that risk is what you need to control, a return will follow, and each person is very different while investing. All these things are very important to understand. It takes a long time. Attitude towards money. If I have had a very comfortable life right throughout, I've never struggled for money, and my father always had surplus. We never had to think too much about money. We've never had, my parents have never had a fight about money. My dad has helped anybody who has approached him. Then my attitude to money would be very different than a person who has had a very tough life in his young age and never had a surplus. So he or she would think of money very differently from how I would think of money. So thank you. So when I talk to my financial advisor, or I have one, and or even to my bank RM, my bank RM tries to improve my return, and I look at her and say, you don't need to improve my return. I'm very happy with capital preservation. I just need to get return equal to inflation. Inflation plus 1% is great. Inflation plus 3% is superb. Inflation 5% is not sustainable. So to me, reasonable return on my portfolio is far more important that I preserve my capital, because I've reached that stage. Was I similar 30 years back? Maybe no. Will my 22-year-old daughter think like me? Maybe no. Maybe she will invest in crypto. Maybe she will look at risk very differently. Maybe she'll say, okay, it's okay to lose 5-10 lakhs. It does not really matter. Her attitude towards risk may be very different from my attitude towards risk, and my money is there to protect her. So she should take risk. She should do that. Should I take risk? Maybe I should take risk on a small part of my portfolio, but I recently heard of a 58-year-old who got wiped out and who has sold off his house, shifted to a different house, and now does not have the skill, patience, ability to earn money. How will you rebuild your portfolio if you lose everything at 60? So obviously a 60-year-old thinks of risk very differently from a 22-year-old. A 25-year-old who is interested in technology, because for him or her technology comes naturally. They don't have to do anything. Intuitively they learn how to use a phone, all features of a phone, right? Or maybe all features of Excel and Word. but a 60-year-old may not, or a 70-year-old may not, or a 95-year-old, a Charlie Munger or a Warren Buffett may not understand technology, or may not attempt to understand technology. Surely they have the brain power to, but they may not have the willingness to, right? So all those things keep happening. Each person is different, so it's very difficult to answer whether the share is fully valued, well valued, correctly valued, because each person is different. Somebody who is buying on a Monday to sell on next Monday looks at it very differently from a person who is trying to buy it in 2022, hoping to sell it in 2062, right? So each person's attitude has to be different, which means the gyan coming to you or the discussion coming to you has to be very different. It cannot be a mass media thing of saying, oh, the markets are high, markets are low, PE is high, PE is low, the ROA is high. Today's businesses don't have assets, so where is the question of ROA, right? So each person has a different question and a different answer. Don't try to do a copy paste, because the answers which you gave to investor A may not be applicable to investor B, and if you don't understand the transitioning, when first the client or investor is chasing for returns, creating a corpus, after that he has to learn how to withdraw. That is a completely different skill, right? So if you are not able to find out why one client behaves like this or another client behaves like this, or if you try doing a cut paste of a very safe investor versus a very risk-taking investor, you will disappoint both of them, right? Be careful. Thank you.